Welcome to this audiobook summary of How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler. In today's fast-paced world, it's a matter of great sadness that reading, a skill with immense potential to transform lives, is often given very little importance. Most people view reading as something they're forced to do at school or work, but reading is an art that deserves much more attention and appreciation. It's not just about skimming through words on a page. Reading can significantly change your life if done properly. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to gain so much more from their reading than others? The secret lies in the techniques and levels of reading, which many of us never get to learn. If you feel that your reading skills are stuck at a basic level and you want to improve, you're in the right place. This summary is designed to teach you how to understand and engage with what you're reading more effectively. Mortimer J. Adler wrote this book to help people upgrade their reading skills because the reality is that most people never progress beyond a level appropriate for a sixth grader. They can read, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And the problem is, they don't know how to improve. In this summary, you will discover the 4 levels of reading: elementary, inspectional, analytical, and syntopical. By practicing these levels, you can transform into a much better reader. You will also learn how to become a demanding reader, which is crucial for extracting the maximum benefit from any book, be it fiction or nonfiction. Whether you read for pleasure or for learning, Adler's insights will show you how every book can be a source of deep understanding and growth. Stay with us till the end and unlock the secrets to turning every book you read into a powerful tool for personal development. Let's dive in and transform your reading experience with How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler. The activity and art of reading. The art of reading is diminishing day by day. People no longer give it much importance as they prefer watching things on the radio, TV, or the internet. However, using modern media might not be the right way to understand the world. Knowing something is quite different from understanding it. It is easy for you to know about something. You might know a lot about the world, but knowing means remembering information that you have read or heard. However, sometimes too much knowledge can be harmful. It might prevent you from understanding something thoroughly. This is where active reading comes in. Active reading requires effort. Your mind must be engaged in the activity. It is not like regular reading, where you simply absorb a message. It is like catching a ball. Imagine a baseball game. The writer is like a pitcher, the person who throws the ball. They are sending a message to the reader and initiating the communication process. The catcher is the person who catches the ball. They don't just stand there. They need to watch, run, and put in effort to catch the ball. The same applies to a reader. To understand the message being sent, the reader must put in effort. Ultimately, your real goal is to understand what the author is conveying correctly. What the author wants to tell you is for your own benefit, and this is the advantage of being a reader. You must understand that reading is an excellent way to learn. Gathering as much information as possible is part of learning. Understanding something you couldn't understand before is also called learning. But learning is of 2 types: being informed and being enlightened. When you read something, you either get information, which means you are informed, or you start understanding something deeply, which is called being enlightened. This is similar to the difference between knowing and understanding. Being informed means knowing about something. For example, someone might tell you that it is sunny outside today. On the other hand, being enlightened is a bit more complex. It involves understanding why something is happening. You get to know how one thing is connected to another. For instance, you can learn why it is sunny. To understand this, you might start understanding things like geology, and chemistry. You can compare different types of fabrics. Being enlightened is a higher level of being informed. When you say you feel enlightened after reading something, it means you not only know what the author has written, but you also understand well what the author is trying to convey and when. Reading many books is not a difficult task, but reading a lot of books does not mean you have learned or understood anything from them. This is the difference between well-read people and widely read people. Your goal should be to become a well-read person. If you know how you learn, it is not a difficult task to achieve. Learning is of two types, instruction and discovery. You might have experienced both in your student life. Instruction is when we learn from another person, like when you sit in class and listen to your teacher. You learn from what your teacher says and writes. But this is not the only way to understand things. You can also learn through discovery. Discovery is when you learn something by researching or thinking about it yourself. In this type of learning, you do not take help or guidance from another person. The levels of reading. As a reader, your goal is to decide what you are going to read. For example, if your goal is to understand physics, you will read a physics book. If you want to read just for fun, you might pick up a novel. Similarly, how well you read depends on the effort you put in. In other words, it depends on whether you are actively engaging with the book. The more effort you put into reading, the better the results will be and the closer you will get to your goal. Have you ever picked up a novel and just read the words on the page? Compare that to the times when you imagined every detail the author described in your mind. These two experiences are quite different, and the difference lies in the amount of effort you put into reading. How can you tell if you are reading well? How can you know how much effort you are putting into reading a book? This is where the 4 levels of reading come into play, ranked by difficulty. They are not categorized, but are called levels for a reason. 1. Elementary reading. The first level is elementary reading. This is the level at which you are learning to read. You learn how to combine words to form sentences. Elementary reading is the level that primary school children are at. For example, your teacher might write some words on a page and you try to read them by combining different sounds. If the words on the paper are, "The cat sat on the hat," you read them out loud. At this level, you are not yet imagining a cat sitting on the hat. You are not trying to understand why this is happening. You are simply trying to read the words in front of you. The question you are trying to answer at this level is, what does this sentence say? You can think of elementary reading as if you are learning a new language. Just like a child, you are learning to speak new words in a different language because you have not yet reached the level where you can understand their meaning. 2. Inspectional reading. The second level is inspectional reading. Inspectional reading is unique because it depends on time. For example, you might be given a reading assignment in class to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn within a month. Your goal is to understand as much as you can within that month. Inspectional reading is also known as pre-reading or skimming. Imagine you are at a bookstall and the book you are considering buying is a bit expensive, but its title has excited you. You want to know as much as possible about it before buying and reading it entirely to decide if it is worth the money. In inspectional reading, your goal is to know as much as you can about a book on a surface level. The question you are trying to answer here is, what is this book about? To do this, you need to understand its parts and structure. 3. Analytical reading. The third level is analytical reading. This is more complex than inspectional reading. By this point, you have become a good reader. You can think of it as inspectional reading without any time constraints. You can take as much time as you need to learn or understand something from a book. You can thoroughly read and understand everything written in the book. When reading at this level, you ask yourself many questions about what you are reading. This is because your goal at this level is to understand as much as possible. Analytical reading means that you are always actively reading, always paying attention, and constantly engaging with the book. You do not use this level when reading for fun or just to gather information. This level is most effective when you want to read a topic or lesson in depth. 4. Syntopical reading. The fourth level is syntopical reading, the most challenging level. Syntopical reading means seeing everything clearly and understanding one thing well and how it is connected to another. When you read at this level, you compare the book you are reading with other similar books. For example, imagine you're trying to learn more about cats. In syntopical reading, you do not think you need to read just one book about cats. Instead, you try to read different books. You learn about various breeds and species of cats. You might also read about the history of domestic cats and then compare them to wild cats. Here, your real goal is to think openly about any topic and learn as much as possible. This is what makes syntopical reading more complex than the other levels. It requires a lot of time and effort, and it is a highly active form of reading. How to be a demanding reader. Do you use reading as a technique to fall asleep at night? If the answer is yes, then you are not practicing active reading. When you read, your goal should be to learn something new, which means giving your full attention to the book. If you are actively reading a book, you will never feel sleepy while reading it. Author Adler divides reading into two types: profit reading and pleasure reading. Profit reading is when you actively read a book to gain some information from it. So how can you tell if you are actively reading a book? The answer is quite simple. You can determine this by asking yourself questions while reading. These questions should be ones that the book does not directly answer, but ones you need to answer yourself as you read. How should you ask yourself questions to gain something from a book? You can start with these 4 questions. 1. What is the book about? Books are structured in a certain way. Try to figure out the central theme or main idea of the book and how the author presents this theme throughout the book. 2. What is being detailed and explained in the book, and how is it being explained? Try to understand what the author is trying to convey. Understand the reasons the author gives to explain something and what the book's core message is. 3. Is the book entirely correct, or are only parts of it correct? To answer this question, you must first know the answers to the previous 2 questions. If you do not know what the book is explaining, you cannot decide if it is right for you. First, understand the content, then comprehend it, and finally judge it. It is up to you to decide what you think about a book. This is not the author's job, but the reader's responsibility. 4. What are you going to do with this information? This question combines all the other questions. If you have learned something from a book, what benefit did it bring you? How will it impact your life? Were there any questions left unanswered by the book? If so, what were they? When you read a book beyond the elementary level, you ask questions. More importantly, you try to answer those questions during your reading. And this is how you become a demanding reader. These questions and answers set you apart from ordinary readers, because ordinary readers do not want to learn anything, they do not ask questions, and thus they never get their questions answered. It is crucial to understand that the last 2 questions are vital for analytical and syntopical reading. These questions help you think deeply about things. As a demanding reader, it is your duty to ask these questions. The best way to practice the question-answer process is through annotation, which means writing in your book. If you have never done this before, it might feel a bit uncomfortable, but since you bought the book with your money, it is your property, and you can use it in any way you like. When you engage in active reading, you are thinking. During the thinking process, You are mentally asking questions and trying to find answers. Writing can make this process clearer and more effective. There are many ways to annotate. You can underline, use vertical lines, write in the margins, or even doodle. Doodling means drawing lines or sketches. You can circle words or entire lines. The point is to write down what interests you, take notes on what you are thinking. Keep in mind that when you are learning these new reading skills, you need to be patient with yourself. Yes, you may have been reading for a long time, but you might not have practiced these mindful reading skills. As you continue to practice them, you will become a demanding reader, and over time, it will become easier for you to do so. Criticizing a book fairly. When you read a book, you are engaging in an active conversation. You are interacting with the author's messages, arguments, and opinions. You ask yourself questions and form your own opinions and judgments. Let's return to the 4 questions you ask while actively reading, focusing on the final question. This is the question that refreshes your memory. If you learned something from a book, how will it benefit you? What impact will it have on your life? Is there something the book did not answer? If yes, what are those things? This helps in forming a judgment about the book, and every demanding reader does this. They do not stop at understanding what the author has conveyed. They form their own opinions. In other words, you are criticizing the book, and this is how you make the most of it. Criticizing a book does not mean giving a negative opinion or bad-mouthing it. Criticism can be positive. When you criticize a book, it means you are learning something new. This is most beneficial when you read a book with which you completely disagree or which presents ideas different from your own. Criticizing a book teaches you teachability. Teachability means being willing to understand others' perspectives or see things from a different viewpoint. You do not see the world from a single perspective. A teachable mind can form its own opinions. When criticizing a book, keep 3 things in mind. 1. Do not judge hastily. This means you must be an active reader and make an effort to understand what the author is saying. Remember, you cannot understand something without knowing it, and you should not judge it without understanding it. Learning to withhold judgment is a part of criticism. It teaches you patience, allowing you to wait for more information and proof before forming an opinion. 2. Avoid quarrels, disagreements, or unnecessary opinions. If you disagree with a book, ensure that your reasons are valid. Disagreeing just to prove others wrong or to pick a fight is incorrect. When reading a book alone, you can somewhat justify your judgments since you are not engaging with others' opinions. However, disagreeing with someone else's opinion just to win an argument is not appropriate. 3. Agree to disagree. It is human nature to disagree with others' opinions, but you must also be willing to agree to avoid unnecessary conflict. For example, if you and another person cannot agree on a criticism of a book, do not just argue without trying to resolve the problem. After a disagreement, you might reach a compromise. Thus, always respect the difference between knowledge and personal opinion. Sometimes, the other person might know more than you. The book's author might have more knowledge than you. This could be the reason for your disagreement. Knowledge is an opinion based on evidence, while opinion is a judgment or thought that does not necessarily have evidence to support it. Criticizing a book fairly means engaging with it actively, forming your own opinions, and being teachable. It involves patience, avoiding unnecessary arguments, and respecting the difference between knowledge and personal opinion. By practicing these principles, you become a more effective and demanding reader, capable of gaining the most from every book you read. Conclusion. In this summary, you have learned how to read a book effectively, based on the insights from How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler. We explored the concept of active reading and the importance of continually engaging with the text. When you read a book, you do so with a purpose, whether for entertainment or to learn something new. Regardless of your goal, you read to gain new knowledge or insights. First, we discussed the 4 levels of reading: elementary, inspectional, analytical, and syntopical. Elementary reading involves understanding the basic meaning of sentences. At this level, you are merely connecting words together. Inspectional reading is about trying to grasp the book's main ideas within a limited time frame. Analytical reading allows you to deeply understand a book without time constraints, enabling you to learn as much as you want. Syntopical reading is the most complex, involving both understanding and comparing the book with others, thereby strengthening your overall comprehension. Next, we explored how to become a demanding reader. There are many benefits to being a demanding reader. You learned how to actively engage with a book by asking yourself questions, and during the reading process, you seek answers to these questions. This method helps you think more deeply about what the author is conveying. You also learned that taking notes and writing can enhance your thinking process. Finally, we discussed how to criticize a book fairly. As a demanding reader, you should know how to critique a book effectively. Your goal should not only be to understand the content, but also to form your own opinions and judgments about the book. Understanding how the book benefits you is crucial. Criticizing a book requires patience, refraining from immediate judgment, and respecting others' differing opinions. It may be challenging to remember all these points while practicing these techniques. It may also feel awkward if it takes longer to practice them. However, persistence is key because practice leads to perfection. The more you practice active reading, the better you will become. Over time, you will be able to understand more from a book, enjoy it better, and learn more. When faced with challenges in life, you will have the knowledge and understanding to handle them effectively. You will be fully prepared. Thank you for listening to this audiobook summary of How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler. We hope you found it insightful and that it will help you become a more effective and demanding reader. Remember, reading is not just a passive activity. It's an active engagement with the text. By applying the techniques we've discussed, you can get more out of every book you read, whether for learning or entertainment. If you enjoyed this summary, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more audiobook summaries. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more valuable content. Happy reading, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing.